Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the UBC Learning Circle. We are beyond excited to be here today with ISPARC, the FNHA, and the BC Sports Hall of Fame to kick off our new series, to continue our new series on Indigenous sport and well-being. Joining us in circle today are Justina di Stasio, Jasmine Montgomery-Reid, Yetko Bearshirt-Robins, and Chief Lara Mussell Savage. Moderated by Michelle Webster, this second session of our four-part series will be focusing on feeling empowered by celebrating Indigenous women and their dedication to sport, as well as pow-wow dancing. Before I get into anything else, I would like to acknowledge that I'm zooming in from the traditional and ancestral territories of the Comox First Nation. I would also like to acknowledge the First Nations Health Authority for generously funding the UBC Learning Circle. Gentle reminder here that the topics we cover can sometimes be sensitive or emotionally triggering. If that's you for today, please make sure you're looking after yourself. If at any point you feel that you need to talk to a friend, elder, counselor, or family member, please don't hesitate to do so. Brief introductions. My name is Cole. I'm from the Chawatho First Nation. Sharing our digital space today, but off camera, is Cynthia, our production coordinator, and Jordy Johnson from the FNHA. Before I hand the mic over to Michelle to introduce herself and get us started, I would like to say that if you feel so inclined, please introduce yourself in the chat box, get that conversation rolling, and you can use that as a way to, ask any questions of our panelists here today that you'd like. So Michelle, I'll leave it up to you.
Awesome, thanks Cole. Good morning everybody. My name is Michelle Webster. I'm Namgis on my dad's side of my family. Zooming in this morning from the traditional territory of the Syilx people up here in Kelowna, where it is a beautiful sunshiny day, and I am so happy and excited to be joining you this morning and engaging in this conversation with our amazing panelists. I am a coach and a former collegiate softball player, and for the purposes of today, just a super fan. Reading some of the bios, I'm so excited to be a fan of all of our panelists now, and look forward to hearing from them, as I'm sure you all are as well. I would like to thank you again for joining us today for the conversation, and to FNHA, UBC Learning Circle, and ISPARC for helping us to get this conversation going. So that's my quick hello from me, and now we'll pass it to our panelists for an introduction of yourselves, and then we'll circle back around for more opportunity for you to share about your story. So without further ado, if I could throw the virtual ball or the mic over to you, Justina.
Hi, my name is Justina di Stasio. I am a member of Norway House Cree Nation. It's in Manitoba, way up north from Winnipeg. And I'm a wrestler on the Canadian women's national team, and I'll be sharing my story about that today.
Awesome, thanks so much, Justina. Welcome, thanks for joining us. Next, I'd like to go over to Jasmine.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jasmine Montgomery-Reid. Traditionally, I carry my name White Feather Woman, and respectfully, I also carry my Celtic name, which is Week, which means eagle. I'm a basketball player, and I'm also a coach alongside Michelle in the National Indigenous Games, and just here to share my story, how sports has empowered me.
Excellent, thanks, Jasmine. Next, let's go over to Yetko.
Hello, my name is Yetko Bearshirt-Robins. I am on the Syilx territory, and I am a Jingle Dress dancer, and I'm excited to share my story with you today.
Thanks, Yetko. Welcome. And over to you, Chief Lara Mussell Savage.
Hey, Swell. Good morning. Such a pleasure to be here. I'm coming to you all today from my family's traditional territory here in Chilliwack. I'm from the Squaw First Nation on my father's side, and we're members of the Pullout tribes out here in Stalo territory in the Fraser Valley. So that's the territory I come from today. And the hat I'm wearing today, I've got a couple of hats. So I am an elected chief for my nation, but my reason for being here today is my passion for sport. I was a member of Team Canada for Ultimate Frisbee for 4 World Championships, where won 2 golds and 2 bronze, and also like to be a part of sport off the field as well, and have been the director of sport with the Indigenous Sport Physical Activity and Recreation Council, known as ISPARC, for the last 10 years. So it's a real pleasure to be here today and to hear everyone's stories. Thanks.
Thanks, Lara. Yeah, just welcome again to everyone, all of the panelists. Even just from those brief welcomes and introductions, I'm super excited to hear more about your stories and to provide the space for you to really share. Feeling empowered through sport, I think we can all attest that we've felt that. And reading your bios, I feel even more empowered and the opportunities that sport can offer to our young people. And so, yeah, again, just super grateful, super honored to be a part of this conversation. So next, we'll kind of open up the floor for a little bit more and give you a little more space to share about your experiences, a little bit about your journey and your story. Again, just a reminder to those that are watching, please feel free to use the chat box to ask your questions or make comments, and we'll be poking in there periodically throughout the conversation. So we'll just keep with the same order of operations so that everybody can feel a little bit more prepared. So based on that smile, Justina, I know that you know that you're up next. So we'll throw the mic over to you to get us started.
Okay. How long generally would you like me to talk for? I don't want to take up too much of anyone else's time.
Yeah, I think, 10 minutes. Let's
Gotcha.
make sure that you
get it all.
Yeah, get it in there.
Okay.
We want to hear from you.
All right. So I wrestle. I've been only wrestling since I was 17 years old. That's when I went to university, and you have to pick your sport. You don't have to, but that's when I picked the one I wanted to try and be like really, really good at. But I grew up in Coquitlam in BC, playing every sport that my parents could afford to put me in, which was really lucky for me that they did take the time to do all that stuff, because it did help me to become a much more well-rounded athlete than if I just played one growing up. I found wrestling when I was 12 years old. The way I walked to school, you had to walk past this like little hole in the window into this one padded room, and I'd walk by home, going home, and I'd see kids doing tumbles and cartwheels and all that, and I was like, sweet, we have a gymnastics team. And so I went and I joined, and I found out it was wrestling, and I was like, oh no, way too much touching other people, way too much contact. But I'm a bigger girl. I was strong and I was big, and it was fun to win, but the sport overall was not fun to me yet. So I tried my best to play soccer and be really, really good at soccer growing up, and it just never took off the way wrestling did. I wrestled the whole time, and when it came time to go to university, I had no soccer scholarships, which kind of hurt my heart because that's the first sport I fell in love with. But I luckily had a really cool high school coach. His name was Selwyn Tam. You'll probably never meet him, but he changed my whole life. So I always share his name. And he emailed the coach at SFU and had me do all the applications and everything. And I was lucky enough to get accepted and sponsored by my band as well. So that really helped going to university. And at the time, I probably wrestled for about 2 to 4 months a year. As little as I possibly could, and still call myself a wrestler. And then I got thrown into this world of wrestling, and I walked onto this team that had girls who were winning world championships at our age level, so junior level, as if it was normal. And I had no idea. I'd walked onto the Simon Fraser University wrestling team was one of the best in North America. I just thought it's the school up the hill from where I grew up. So it became immediate, we're here, we're really good at this. So the goals from the start were make a world team. Just try to wrestle and make a world team. At the start, in high school, I won a lot of matches, and I didn't think wrestling was too hard. And then I went to university and I lost a lot of matches, and I found wrestling very hard. But I'm stubborn, and I like a challenge, and I like to, I think all athletes, like you enjoy that hardship as much as you love the success, but you also enjoy the challenge. So I stuck it out my freshman year and I got fourth at our nationals, and then I went to junior nationals. So fourth at college nationals, and I went to junior nationals, and all these girls who I've seen win Canadian national championships growing up. I couldn't really afford to go to them growing up, but you follow the people. And then I won, and I thought that you win nationals and you get a cool singlet and you might have to go to a tournament. I didn't know now your whole summer was spent wrestling and traveling around the world, like having to wrestle all these other really good people. So I went to my first junior world championships when I was 18 years old, and I placed 8th, which sounds cool to be 8th in the world, but there weren't that many people at the tournament. I was the heaviest weight class. It wasn't the biggest turnout, but I watched this girl who looked like me, only a year older than me. Like, the idea of representation matters before that became like a thing. I feel like I was like, whoa, that girl looks like me. I want to be as good as her. She's Russian. She's actually gone on to win the Olympics and stuff. She's phenomenal. But I watched her wrestle while I was sitting in the stands. And I was like, I don't just want to participate at world championships. I want to win world championships. And that was 2011. And it took until 2018. And I won worlds, like, I don't know, 7 years later, I guess that is. But the getting there was like this, like a lot of this. And then, I completed my degree at SFU. I have an English degree from SFU, and I wrestled my entire college wrestling career there. And then you have that little time in between where you're no longer winning college tournaments and you're not yet winning international tournaments. You're kind of just like, it's like your freshman year again. You're getting your butt kicked because you're jumping to that next level. This time there was a bit more like support for it from like just, I don't know, internally myself, knowing that if I stuck it out, it will get good again, like it did last time. But that's where I really started to build like the community around myself. Like, wrestling is an individual sport, but the like slogan, like it takes a village, truly, like I built everything around it, like sports psych, nutritionists, lifting coaches, wrestling coaches for different aspects of what we're doing. And then just, I love my friends. I'm very local, but like limiting the amount of social stuff. Like, you have to sacrifice a few things to get what you want. So a lot of it was like, how can I spend my time outside of wrestling where it's still helping me in wrestling? That kind of stuff is just like, the older I got, the better I was at doing that and time managing and like building a network of people who, they don't need to know everything about wrestling, but they do have to know that that's the thing we're working towards, like every moment of the day kind of thing. That stuff was leaving college, you start to figure that out. And I started making like senior world teams in 2015. I won all these cool tournaments leading into worlds, beating these girls. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually really good. And it terrifies you. I think when you're chasing something, when you're an underdog, you're like, ooh, like, let's just try. And then you get good, and you have to not freak out that you're good, if that makes sense. Like, you have to still have the approach of like, let's just do what tries, not I have to win. So that kind of came out, and I got knocked out in the first round of my first world championship in 2015. And then again, figure it out. And like I said, 2018, I finally figured it out and I won. And I always skip over this because I get very shy talking about things I'm good at, but like, that was the best day ever. Like, that was the coolest feeling. And it was in Budapest, Hungary, and my parents traveled. My dad actually came too. Usually my mom only comes because just to afford it. She's like, please let me go. And then he was like, no, we're all going this time. And I could remember wrestling and hearing my dad cheer for me the way he did when I was a kid growing up. Oh, coolest feeling ever. That was 2018. Since then, my next goal was to make the Olympic team. I'm now a 2-time Olympic alternate. I haven't made the Olympic team yet, and then COVID hit and everything. So I think being a high-level athlete, you kind of get used to having a schedule for you, and then COVID happened and there was nothing to do. And I went back to school and I got my teaching degree, and I realized that that idea of like trying to be the best at everything really doesn't help me in every other part of life. Like sometimes you can just be okay and be happy and be content, be your best. You don't have to be the best. So just like the last year working on all the mental health stuff, I'm really excited to return to sport and bring like everything leading into this next like short Olympic quad. And I actually take off next week to Italy for my first tournament in like a year and a half. And I'm so nervously excited, and I hope I'm still good, but if I'm not, I hope it's fun, and we'll see how it goes. So that's my story. That's where I'm at. That's wrestling. And it's, if you ever have the chance to join a wrestling or try wrestling, I really hope you do.
Wow. Thank you, Justina. Gosh, so many cool things in your story there, right from being a multi-sport athlete to the ups and downs of a career and the eye-opening experience of collegiate athletics, for sure. So many questions, but such an honor just to hear you chat there. I got the goosebumps when you're talking about your family being there for.
I know, I always get emotional.
Yeah, so amazing. And I think that maybe that's a common thing for female athletes, to be a little bit shy sometimes about, you know, bragging on their experiences. But congratulations on such an amazing career so far. And I'm sure I could speak for everybody that's in attendance today that we will be rooting for you for the rest of your career for sure. So thank you for sharing that. Again, I've already written down an entire list of questions for you that we'll circle back to, but we'll come back. Thank you so much, Justina. All right, let's go over to Jasmine. Love to hear your story, Jasmine.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I'm Jasmine Montgomery-Reid. I'm 26 years old, and I've had the privilege of playing basketball my whole life. I played sports all through high school, through my high school team and for the Seahawks basketball club. Basketball runs in my family, and I kind of just followed suit. In my athletic career, I played 5 years of collegiate basketball, starting at Camosun College in Victoria. And then the rest of my years I spent at Northwest Indian College, where I had the experience of competing in 13 different states. I met an amazing network of athletes, mentors, and elders who to this day inspire me to continue. As basketball has been my passion, equally coaching has been. I've coached alongside an ISPARC and through the Seahawks Basketball Club with Peter Wardenberg, and I'm just continuing to follow in his footsteps as he's instilled the knowledge that sports and basketball is a privilege. And during coaching, with the strict policies, no drugs, no alcohol, and having grades to stay in school, it saved my life, and it got me to university. I've seen firsthand coaching and basketball save youth. Not only from just addiction, but even violence. And I've had the privilege to share my passion and inspire and empower. So that's what I want to continue to do. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia at a very young age. So it's been an uphill battle to continue to stay active, but basketball's been my medicine, and I've seen it do the same for others. Indigenous women are survivors, which statistically, like, to even be alive. So I want to acknowledge, and this is an amazing group of women that have used sports, and we're trying to advance for equality. And that's kind of just the basis of this also, creating opportunities on and off the court and promoting quality and women's empowerment across the board, not just in sports. Respectfully, I want to acknowledge the recent discoveries in Kamloops. My grandfather attended residential school, and he was one of my main people, and he had a constant reminder that as Indigenous people, we're survivors, and in sports, we can empower ourselves and others to show the strength from our ancestors and people that paved the way so we can even be here today. This is a huge reason for me starting my path in nursing school. And as in, like, Indigenous communities were experiencing a huge gap, and it's not being addressed in my drive specifically from sports as to pave that way. The last 5 years, my work has been in youth outreach and coaching, and I've truly recognized an inequity of health services. And the goal is to become a nurse and make an impact, no matter how small, on the health field with a holistic approach to wellness, and bring trauma-informed care with culturally competent and safe practices. Sports has given me the empowerment to even start this journey. And as an Indigenous woman, I'm honored and proud to be on this panel. And Limot for listening.
Wow, thank you, Jasmine. I have no doubt that you will make not small changes and differences, but huge ones, huge impacts. So much of what you just said in that short time just spoke directly to my soul, to the core of me. I'm so grateful to share this space with you. And it's been so cool to meet you at things like NAG and, watch you as you start your journey, in coaching with Peter. And that's a special thing when an athlete makes that transition from coach or from an athlete into coaching and giving back to their sport, and just the ways that you're using all the things that you learned on the court from your travels and from your experiences to give back in all aspects of life is truly special. And you're right, we come from strong ancestors, and I just appreciate you so much. So thank you so much for being there. Again, my list of questions is getting double-sided for you already, and we've heard from two of you. So thank you so much, Jasmine. Truly appreciate you being here, and super excited now to throw it over to Yetko.
Hello, my name is Yetko Bearshirt-Robins, and I'm 21 years old, and I'm from the Sioux and Blackfoot tribes. My native name is Inhelk, and I was born and raised in the Justina di Stasio territory. I am currently attending the University of British Columbia Okanagan and pursuing my childhood goal in becoming a pediatric nurse practitioner. I am proud of both my Blackfoot and Sioux cultures, and I am currently learning both Blackfoot and the Sioux languages. My father, Leonard Bearshirt, is Blackfoot and from the Siksika Nation located outside of Calgary, Alberta. My mother, Randy Robbins, is Scale Okanagan and from the Okanagan Indian Band located in Vernon, British Columbia. Both of my Blackfoot and Okanagan families have been actively involved in the pow-wow circle, including my father, uncles, and late grandpa, who are actually known singers in the circle. My mother spent most of her childhood traveling to powwows with my late grandfather, Emery Robbins, in an old school van full of her cousins and siblings. The whole family enjoyed traveling and being at powwows. My mother, aunties, and cousins were also dancers in their childhood. My mom was a fancy dancer. Being raised in the Okanagan has allowed me to learn the language and culture at a very young age. I attended the daycare, preschool, and kindergarten at St. Melton School on Westside Road in Vernon, BC, and the Cultural Immersion School in Kamapolksissamamai Tamiko Scaleftit from grade 2 to 7, and it allowed me to learn the language from a young age and be as culturally oriented that I am today. My first regalia was created by my parents when I was the age of 2. It was made out of an old blue t-shirt, and the designs are Blackfoot designs with some white ribbon. My father also beaded me a crown, which I still have today, but I don't have a picture of it. And there's me. It's my outfit. Since then, I've tried out all 3 styles of dance. I went from dancing traditional to fancy and then to jingle. When I was 6 years old, my mother and auntie Joan created my first outfit for me. It was a simple white shawl and green and orange ribbons with a green skirt. I danced fancy for about 2 or 3 years before I fell in love with jingle. I had a very simple jingle dress when I first started. It was red and white with silver cones. I believe it was made by Sophie White. I remember that I loved that dress, and once I reached the age of 10, my family began purchasing more contemporary style jingle dresses for me and beadwork from the local and well-known seamstress and beater Sophie White. And then later on, my mom started beading for me. With jingle dress dancing, I fell in love when I was I think I was 8 or 9. I loved the sound the jingles made, and I loved how the women held themselves over in the dress at powwows. I always looked up to them, and I loved the meaning behind the dress. I love how it's known as the healing dance and how it's dedicated to praying. My mom and late grandpa Emery were my biggest supporters that I've had. My mom would stay up many hours beading all my accessories, like my moccasins, leggings, hair ties, barrettes, and my late grandpa would also help me with purchasing jingle dresses. Jingle dresses can get pretty expensive. I earned all my feathers through my late grandpa. He taught me how to take care of myself and my outfits. My first fan I earned was a red hawk fan. It was a tiny little one, and it had 1 eagle feather, like hanging off of it, and that was my first eagle feather earned. And then later on, I earned my plumes, and I received my stick-up feather after graduating high school. The story behind the Jingle Dress began with the Northern Ojibwe tribe, and the story is that a dress was first seen in a dream. A medicine man's granddaughter was sick, and he slept with his spirit guides. Came to him and explained that this dress could heal her. And later on, he created the dress, and she danced in the dress, and it cured her sickness with her prayers. And this is a picture of one of the first jingle dresses. Thought it was pretty interesting to share. So there's two different styles of jingle dress dancing. There's the old style, which is the original style, and it's they usually have more like simple, plain jingle dresses with like no designs, and typically they have just moccasins, no leggings or plumes or fans to use. And then contemporary style is the style that I dance. It includes like more footwork, and it includes a fan and feathers. And then the dresses are typically like more shiny, more colorful, and kind of more like outstanding a little bit. And these are just pictures of, this is like an example of the contemporary jingle dress to the left, and then the old style jingle dress to the right. Kind of like the first few jingle dresses that were created, which I find interesting. It's changed so much now. While being involved in the POW circle, I was taught by my grandpa and by my parents to take care of your spiritual, mental, and physical health. It allows you to have a clear mind and have no negativity while wearing your regalia. It's very important not to be negative while wearing your regalia, especially as a jingle dress dancer. The purpose is for praying and to pray for those that need prayers, or for yourself, your family. Sometimes at powwows, like if a family is looking for prayers, they'll go to the committee of the powwow and ask the jingle dressers to pray for their family or their loved one that needs prayers. And it allows myself to have a clear mind at powwows. And to keep in shape for powwows, I enjoy playing fastball. To keep in shape for the season, it requires a lot of energy, especially from your legs, and just dancing around for, I don't know, I think like around 6 minutes. It's a lot of work on your legs. And with POW dancing, it includes a lot of traveling. I've traveled all over British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and the United States. My big goal is to make my way down to Gathering of Nations powwow in New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico. We were supposed to go in 2019, but then COVID hit and then it got canceled. So I was pretty upset about that. But I enjoy traveling with my family and my friends, no matter the amount of kilometers and hours it takes to reach the destination. Because just being at POWs is a really nice environment for myself. I suffer from like anxiety and stuff, but when I POW dance, like I can dance in front of like hundreds of people and I won't be shy. But talking in front of other people, I get pretty shy. But it's funny how that works, because people will be recording or taking pictures. And my most proudest moments in my life are probably when girls approach me and ask to teach me how to dance, or they compliment my dancing. And a moment that'll stick with me for life was when, it was in 2019, I was at the Tsutina Powwow in Alberta. I was at a Calgary, also known as RC Powwow. I was dancing in my category. I was out of shape and I was out of breath and I was really tired, and I didn't think I was gonna make like the second song. But the two little girls in front of me, as I was getting water, they told me that I was their favorite dancer out there and that I looked really beautiful, and that made my day, and it made me want to dance hard for them for the second song. And it made me happy knowing that two little girls were watching me and like looking up to me and felt the need to give me a compliment. It's like they knew I needed it, which was really sweet. Being a role model, when I was a little girl, there was no like jingle dress dancers in my family. They were mostly like traditional or fancy dancers, or my uncles were like traditional and grass dancers. So I didn't have like that many people in my family to kind of like teach me how to dance. I looked up to a lot of the women at the powwows. Like I like how the women all looked in their dresses and like how they held themselves, and it's the way the style of dancing it is, and just knowing that they're praying for others. And I just thought it was really cool. And being older now, like I know that I could probably be a role model for many young girls, including my little cousin Jasmine on the screen. That's her. She traveled all of 2019. She traveled us to powwows. She got really into dancing. She danced every intertribal, grand entry, and tiny talk categories, and junior girls categories, and teen girls categories. And she cried when she couldn't dance with me in women's categories later that night. But I also have other little cousins who are starting to dance, and they all say like they want to be a dancer like me, which I think is really sweet. And I'm glad I can be someone like that for my family. In many families, I know that there's like a lot of first generation power dancers that just they want to start dancing, but they didn't have any like relatives that danced before, and especially little girls. And I hope that I can be someone that they can approach to like help them out or teach them how to dance or like take care of themselves or just for like guidance or anything. When I was 14, I actually had the opportunity to run for Miss Kamloops, which is at the Kamloops powwow. It's kind of like a strict like pageant for like you're being like a role model for like all the young girls. And I ran for Miss Kamloops. It was a lot of hard work. I sold tickets all day in like 40-degree weather, and I made lots of friends though from like different tribes in like Alberta, the States, and stuff. It was really nice. And yeah, it allowed me to make new friends, and it was a great experience. I didn't win, but I was just happy that I got to experience it. When I was a little girl, I always wanted to run for Miss Kamloops, and I'm glad I did. And I'm glad that I could say I did. And here is a video of me dancing at Kamloops powwow. I believe it was in 2019. I'd like to thank FNHA and UBC Circle for inviting me to share my story today.
Thank you, Yetko. What a beautiful journey you've been on, and an incredible story. I'm that person in the movie theater that applauses in sport movies when the underdog scores a goal, and at the end of the dance, and they're like, "Yeah, round of applause." I was like, "Yes, that was awesome. That was so beautiful. It was amazing." And thank you for sharing, the history and some of the teachings that you have. How fortunate for you. That's amazing. Such an incredible story. And again, looking forward to circling back with some follow-up questions for you. So thank you for that. And Lara, I've heard a little bit, in our chats with work about your experience in your sport and in your, all the amazing things that you've done. And I'm so grateful that I get to be the one that asks you the questions today, and to just provide you space to share a little bit more with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Michelle. And Yetko, that was amazing to see you dancing. Thanks for sharing your story, but also those visuals. That was just beautiful. So mine's not as exciting. I don't have any visuals or video, but really just would like to share my journey, kind of where I kind of got to where I am today. Like the rest of the panelists, I too grew up with, a passion for sport. I had some really great role models in my parents, who were active. And so, on the res, we had a lacrosse box here. We have a paddling community here at the SQUA. Really got into softball as a kid. And then in my teen years, got into, volleyball, basketball, even curling. I was a competitive curler as a teenager, and but I got introduced to actually the sports of golf and the sport of ultimate frisbee. So an individual sport and a team sport in my grade 12 year of high school. And actually really fell in love with golf. I ended up getting a job at a golf course just shortly after high school, and thought that I had the opportunity to golf every day because of working at the course. And so I thought, yeah, maybe I'll get into this and get into competitive stream or become a teaching pro or, something like that. But then I ended up having some opportunities with Ultimate because our high school team ended up wanting to continue competing in Ultimate Frisbee after we graduated from high school. So our high school team kind of entered into the Vancouver Ultimate League, started playing, recreationally. There's competition for sure in that league, but still considered at the recreational level. And then the love for Ultimate really kind of overpowered everything else. It's just, it got its name, Ultimate, because it actually really does incorporate there's lots of elements of other sports. So, you're on a soccer-sized field with end zones at the end, you're completing a pass in an end zone like you'd see in football. You're having lots of back and forth movement like you'd see in basketball. Those quick turnovers, offense becomes defense and you go the other way. It's kind of similar to basketball. It's got the same kind of running that you would see, as a striker in soccer. It's a really exhausting sport, but so much fun. And so I just couldn't resist really sticking with Ultimate, and was encouraged, by mentor Leslie Calder, who was, she's a phenomenal player. She's, in the Ultimate Hall of Fame, and she encouraged me to try it along with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. And he was getting into competitive Ultimate too. So I decided to try out, and it kind of went from there. And, like Justina, it was kind of like, oh, okay, I think I'm okay at this. Like I'm doing pretty well here, and wanting to get better and better, and wanting to strive for podiums even, and going to those high level tournaments. And our Vancouver women's touring team, called Prime, we decided that we did want to become the best we could possibly be. And the competition actually within Canada, we had outgrown that completely. So we knew we had to start competing in American tournaments. So we started entering American tournaments and ended up qualifying to represent Canada in the World Ultimate Championships. So went to my first one of those, and we won bronze. Canada won bronze at that, and I was still kind of new, still a real rookie then. I learned a lot from that tournament, and from the women I played with. Some amazing female role models and mentors on that team. And then subsequently competed in 3 more worlds after that. Captained the team in 2004 when the World Games was in Finland. We ended up playing in the finals against Team Finland. So we were on their home turf. So the entire stadium was mostly fans for the local team here, the Team Finland. But we did go undefeated in that tournament. We did win that World Championships, and that was an incredible highlight of my career, was the 2004 Worlds. And shortly following that, I got nominated by the Ultimate community, by some of my teammates, in recognizing there was the Tom Longboat National Award, which recognizes the top Indigenous female and male athlete of the year for Canada. I actually had never heard of that award until the nomination had happened, and I ended up being awarded. I'd heard about it the year before, as I had won the BC Athlete of the Year. So in 2005, it was recognized as the National Indigenous Female Athlete of the Year for Canada. And through that award, it wound up opening some really interesting doors for me into the Indigenous sport world in Canada. I didn't realize that there was quite the infrastructure that we have with Indigenous sport bodies within different provinces and territories across Canada, that the North American Indigenous Games, National Aboriginal Hockey Championships, and events like that. So the Tom Longboat Awards at that time, the winners were acknowledged at the National Aboriginal Hockey Championships banquet. So I traveled out to Miramichi to receive that award. The male athlete of the year at that time was Richard Peter, Paralympic wheelchair athlete from Cowichan. So we became fast friends and have been friends ever since we had that journey to Miramichi together. And so it really did open my eyes to the Indigenous sport stream. I had grown up with the paddling and the lacrosse in our community, and my father's involvement, and so I was aware of it, but didn't realize there was this organized structure, and there were these bodies that oversaw the programs. So it was shortly after that I realized I wanted to do more for the Indigenous communities, recognizing that I was being seen as a role model. I recognized the power of sport to transform lives. I know that it was certainly something really positive in my life. It taught me all kinds of life skills. I remember hearing Charmaine Crooks, a track and field athlete from Team Canada, that came to speak to our team before we traveled to one of the World Championships. And she talked about striving for excellence on the field, and how she endeavored to continue striving for excellence in other aspects of her life. And echoing Justina, in that it's not always about being the best at everything, but it feels good to try to be your best, and to try to do well in your relationships, in your career, in your schooling or your academics. And that when she talked about that, it really resonated with me. So I'm like, yeah, I don't have to leave it on the field. Because there I am, we're working hard, we're striving for us, and we want that gold medal. And like, I can put the same kind of energy or effort into other things that I'm passionate about off the field. So I wound up going to UBC and completing a Bachelor of Kinesiology but in the sport management stream, so minoring in commerce, and wanting to work in the sport world and be a part of those major events and those big events that help support athletes and coaches in competing and having that celebration of sport and being a part of that. So So completing that that degree led me into a career in sport, which eventually I was 5 years with the Vancouver Organizing Committee for the 2010 Olympic Games, focusing on Indigenous participation in those games and working hand in hand with the Four Host First Nation Society. Was the co-director of the Indigenous Youth Gathering for 2010, which brought together those 300 Indigenous youth from across Canada who were a part of the opening ceremonies for those 2010 games. Really, really proud of that project, because that it wasn't just about bringing those youth together to help open the games in the ceremony. There was leadership workshops, there were cultural workshops. They got to tour Olympic venues, meet Olympic role models. There was all kinds of amazing leadership programming over like a 16-day period that we had this amazing group of youth together. And then following that, wound up garnering more relationships and networks and connections in the Indigenous sport world, and led me to ISPARC. So I've now been 10 years with the Indigenous Sport Physical Activity and Recreation Council. So, that my athletic days are behind me. I'm back to golfing leisurely and hacking it up out there on the course. But, my competitive days are definitely behind me, but my passion for sport will forever be a fire lit within my heart and in my gut. It pleases me to no end to be a part of ISPARC, especially given we do oversee the Team BC program for the North American Indigenous Games. And that's a contingent of about 550 Indigenous athletes and coaches representing BC at those games. And one of my favorite memories is at the 2014 games held in Regina. There was an athlete on our rifle team who was an underdog, I would say. She was just so happy to be there. It wasn't about the medals for her. It was really just, she was so pleased to have made the team and to be representing her community and the province was the real win for her. But she wound up, to her surprise, not to her coach's surprise, but to her surprise, she wound up winning the bronze medal in a certain division in rifle. And I was there when her name got called for the bronze. And you'd think that she had won the gold. I mean, it was just in tears and sobbing on the podium, but tears of joy and happiness, and realizing, wow, I am good at something. I didn't just make this team, but I contributed to one of BC's medals. Like, BC won the overall team award at those games for having won the most medals by one medal. So we won that overall team award by one medal. And so I think of athletes like her, like every medal mattered, but hers was really special because I happened to be there for that win. And it's just, a real testimony to how, what good medicine sport is. Jasmine, you talked about medicine and how I do see that, with this recent news with the Kamloops Residential School, our community, had rallied together with the cultural and spiritual leaders in our community, bringing our community together in the safest way possible to share stories, to grieve together, to try to heal together. And one of our elders got up to speak to the group and really emphasized, get in that canoe and paddle, get out and play lacrosse, because it is sport and it is culture that will heal our people. And I think that she's right. I completely agree that sport and culture can be a path to healing. And so I'm so pleased to be able to be a part of an organization that does promote sport and maximize opportunities for our communities and people to participate. I've had some great life experiences in sport. I'm a testament to how, sport can really do well for you in teaching you great life skills and striving for excellence off the field too. So yeah, so that's my journey. That's where I am today. I have a number of things that I am a part of in the sport world, but it's all off the field now, and I enjoy it. I feel like I'm still winning medals, even though I'm not competing anymore. That I'm still a part of a really great movement, and it's just an amazing panel here today. I'm so inspired by Yetko, Justina, and Jasmine, and even you, Michelle. You've got a great story too, and it's an honor to have you here as a moderator today. You're a role model too, and so yeah, this has been a real pleasure. Thanks for letting me share my story.
Well, thanks, Lara. I think I can speak quite easily on behalf of all of ISPARC. We are so happy and lucky to have you be a part of leading the charge in Indigenous sport in BC. And I can't hear the reference to 2014 NAG without getting goosebumps. What a special year that was. That was my first NAG as a coach, and just the experience that you provide and leadership that you provide to our team is I don't know if I'll ever find the words to express to you how special that experience was to me. And so just
the words are stay classy.
Stay classy. That's right. Stay classy. That's exactly the words. Yeah. Stay classy. And TBC made history and not in small part to your leadership of our team. And so there's so many things that I think that your sport has gotten so right in terms of, the sportsmanship and the spirit of the games. And I think that you could see that in your leadership in the way that you contribute to Indigenous sport in BC. And so we're so grateful to have you at ISPARC, and you're such a leader and such a mentor to me. And yeah, just super blessed to have you in my life. And I love how every panelist so far has just been kind of like, yeah, that's my story, but it's such amazing stories, and such power, and some common threads for sure from, sport being medicine to, the way that it has an opportunity to save lives and change lives, as Jasmine had mentioned. And yet, when you were speaking about, the anxiety that you might feel, in everyday life, I saw a lot of nods like this because you don't necessarily feel that dancing. And so I saw a lot of, agreement from the other panelists there. And my mom used to tell me I was two different people, one on the softball field and then one at home. I was different. I was just different in the way that I competed and the way I approached my game versus, what I did in everyday life. I was kind of shy too, which nobody believes anymore, but it's true. I'm a shy person as well. But yeah, gosh, your stories are so amazing, and I could listen to them all day, and so powerful. But we do have a couple of questions. So I'll just go through a round and ask some follow-up questions to everybody if that's all right. But yeah, gosh, so amazing. So many goosebumps this morning to start the day. I love it. So we had a question in the chat box for Justina. How did you motivate yourself through the rough times being in between high school and professional wrestling?
Well, like I said, in high school, I guess there were like rough times in high school too. Like the reason that I didn't love the sport yet is because I was winning because I was an athlete. I didn't know how to wrestle. I just was like, I'll try to compete, and that was enough. And then getting into college and international wrestling, like you can't just be an athlete. All these other girls were the best from where they're from. So now I have to learn to wrestle. Everyone would probably sound a little hard on myself, which I think is helpful, but you also need those people to be like, no, you're good too. Like, I'm always like, okay, well, this is what went wrong, so we need to fix this and that and this and that. But to have people in your ear to say, but here's the 4 good things that you completely ignored. So I think what helped me make that like jump when it would go before it went good was the people I had supporting me, and that's like coaches, family, friends. Like, when you are so focused on one thing, you do kind of need people to keep you grounded when it's good, but you also need those people to like pick you up when it's bad. So I just made sure that the people I do have in my life are like really positive, looking for the good of every day kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Such a great answer. And I think it probably rings true for most athletes or individuals just in general. You need that kind of hype squad that reminds you, and when I'm working with, young softball players, they have a bad game and then they forget that they're really good at what they do. And it just sometimes is a bad day. And It's kind of the nature of sport that it happens that way, but just, yeah, it's, I call them the hype squad. You might call it the community that you surround yourself with, but it's good to have those people that remind you that, hey, you're on the right path and you're doing great things. And, sometimes bad days happen or small adjustments need to be made, but yeah, it's go find yourself a hype squad if you don't already have one. They're clutch. They're so important. Thanks for that, Justina. I'd like to throw it over next to Jasmine for my next question. You talked about, kind of transitioning and being a coach. When I became a coach, I really felt like maybe that was what I was meant to do all along. Like I loved being an athlete. I really loved competing on the field. I had high aspirations for myself. Little miniature 8-year-old Webster was going as far as you could go in the sport. Like I was committed. And then when I realized the impacts that I could have as a coach and what I could do as a coach, and had some really great role models that helped me see that, it changed my whole world and perspective. And so I know that, you're got great experiences in college athletics and high performance basketball, but wondering if you could share a little bit about that transition from athlete to coach and, how you've made that or how you work within that. And if you've had any role models or any help with doing that.
Yeah, I remember coaching right away when I was younger. So I was helping Peter when I was younger and being like, this is going to suck. Like these are 12-year-olds, 11-year-olds, this is going to suck. And it was amazing. Like you talked about hype squad, that is 12, 11 to 13-year-olds hyping you up while you're trying to coach them. And it was an amazing experience. And I fell in love. I've gotten so many injuries in basketball, like so many surgeries, that it was like, this is a little bit safer. I still love it. It's a little less surgeries, but going to NAG in Toronto was amazing. Like you guys are talking about, like the goosebumps, like having that experience and these kids coming in and there's someone 7'1" walking in and everyone's like stops. And it's like, this is, like those experiences are huge. Like getting to play around 13 different states and seeing all the different levels of basketball. Like you're walking into a gym and you don't know who you're going to see. You don't know what's going to happen. And you have girls dunking when you walk in and you're like, yep, like, here I am, like kind of thing. And it was amazing to see. I usually coach boys like U14. I don't know if I'm equipped to coach girls yet. I got to learn some more sensitivity training for sure. Because I know Peter has had to have so much for us. Like our girls team has been a lot, and he's coached us. He still continues to coach us. We have our own club team, and I don't know how he does it. Like I don't even, but that transition has been great, and it's something I want to continue to do. And I've seen that even with nursing school and like team development and health promotion, and so much I've learned along the way from different coaches that I've got to experience is helping me in my education and in my journey. Like even with leadership skills, like it's amazing what the difference you can make, with your chin held high coming into a situation, in my clinicals and stuff. And that's something I've learned through coaching. And it wasn't through sports, because I was the one that needed to be told. I needed a hype squad. I was really hard on myself. Like I was the baby of the team. So it's been really honestly coaching. That's my full passion now.
Oh, that's so awesome. Thanks, Jasmine. Yeah, gosh, yeah, it's such a special thing. And you talk about how it's maybe a little bit safer. I think I got my first concussion coaching, so it's not like, pay attention. The ball is still flying around. You never know when that's going to happen. But yeah, I think one of the most special things, I get to be a lot of things in my life, but the most special for me, or one of them, is to be called coach. We have colleagues at ISPARC that call me coach, and it's a great honor to have that title to your name and to be able to give back in those ways. And you're right, like it just shapes your perspective on the rest of the world that you live in, and the way that you approach things and the things that you learn through developing yourself as a leader and as a coach, and just throwing it into the rest of your life. And you're a great example of that. So thank you for that. And we are so grateful at ISPARC that you are a coach for us, and continue to give back to camps and clinics in your communities and in the interior. And so we're glad you're back. We're glad you're back in the interior. You'll be hearing from us soon. But yeah, super awesome story of that transition. Yetko, if you don't mind, I'd love to ask you some follow-up questions as well. Just, it's such a great story, such a beautiful, holistic story of how, your whole family is involved in your dance and the teachings that you have. And so I know you kind of mentioned, the little girls at the dances that were kind of inspiring you to continue on. And by the way, I was a catcher, and that is endurance work on your legs. Like, I spent a lot of times in my legs in softball, but oh my gosh, like that's athleticism, that's strength, that's endurance, that's looks hard for sure. But just wondering if there's like a moment that stands out for you, while you're at a powwow, or any specific moment that you'd like to share with us that was truly inspiring to you.
I should think of that. It's been a couple of years since I've been at a powwow since COVID. I think just when people like come up to you, like even just travelers from like outside of Canada come up to you at a powwow and just call you beautiful, or say like, oh my God, like you inspired me, you did an amazing job out there. Like even just people that don't even know the culture come in and compliment you, like it makes you feel really good about yourself. And I love when, like, I think there's people from like Australia that came up to me before and they asked for a picture, and I was like, sure, and I took a picture with them. And I've never seen that picture, but I bet it's somewhere around the world, and I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, you have some amazing pictures, so I'm no doubt wherever it is, it's truly awesome and awe-inspiring as well. But yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Yetko. Lara, I thought of a question for you last night, actually, and so I don't know if I'll nail it or I'll get it right. I promised you I'd ask you all of the hard ones, but yeah, I think there's so many things that Ultimate has right in terms of, again, the sportsmanship and the spirit of the games, and even the equality on your fields and the inclusion. And I love talking to just your whole community of the sport that you thrive in. And so my question is, what do you hope that the community or the sport took from you, or your teammates took from you in your time on the field?
Oh, that is a hard one. I think that if I'm going to guess that if you asked my teammates kind of what was one quality that was maybe a strength of mine for the team, was my calmness. We actually had a group of captains because we didn't have a coach. There just weren't elite level coaches in 20 years ago. They have them now. We've got them now, and it's people in my generation that are now coaching elite level teams. But so we were a core of five elected leaders on the team, and we all had different strengths and we had different roles. And I was this source of calmness for sure when we needed a voice to kind of bring us down if we were overstimulated or overhyped, or to kind of center us back. I think I brought some of that calmness. I was also the one known to be smiling on the field when I was playing. So if it was like I made a deke to like get open and I made this cut, and then I'm like running for like, okay, here I am. I had this big smile on my face. So I was just known for, I think that joyful expression too, because, and I had a teammate that made Team Canada from another province. She was from Alberta, and she always thought that you should be enemies, that your opponents are your enemies and you don't befriend the enemy. And here I was every time we would compete against each other, because she was, we would represent Calgary and I'd represent Vancouver, and I was always like, baby, and I'm like running to like give her a hug. And she I think she learned from me as well that you can be competitive and you can have that grr and that grit, but you can still be classy, and you can still be sportsmanlike, you can still be friendly, you can still shake hands after a game. And Ultimate is so great for that. It has the element of spirit of the game, and any listeners who've never heard of Ultimate or the spirit of the game, just encourage you to check it out, but to give kind of a quick example. The spirit of the game really is about that sportsmanship element. It's about respecting your opponents, respecting the rules, respecting yourself. It's a self-refereed sport, even at the world championship level. You call your fouls. You know, if you have a disagreement on the field, there's protocols. You work it out, and if you can't work it out, there are some protocols to follow. But you try to kind of like work that out in a call. And so many have thought that this sport wouldn't be able to be televised, because when you have these stoppages in play, and then like if a player is taking a moment to kind of work something out with the other one over a foul call, that people wouldn't really like that. But I argue kind of the other way. You put some mics on people and then you hear them kind of working that stuff out. That actually might be really, really interesting to hear. But yeah, to go back to your question, I mean, I learned so much from the sport, and I think that this got some really neat parallels. The spirit of the game aspect, you do spirit circles at the end. I mean, you're there arm in arm, like, you know, Team Germany and Team Canada, and we're all linking arms in this big circle, and we have a sharing circle. The spirit circle in Ultimate is actually like our traditional sharing circles. You actually take a moment for reflection, you do some sharing, you acknowledge what you took from the other team, whether you won or lost, what you learned from them, what you're taking away from that game, from that experience. Love that. I think every sport should be doing that kind of thing. And I think it lends itself to encouraging that sportsmanship, again, that friendly note that, you know, you can have that and that grit and compete, but you can still have that real class and friendliness. But yeah, I think that I'm was known as kind of the calm and centered leader. When we needed that, I brought that out.
I could definitely see that. I can see that in you for sure. And again, stay classy and the calm, and that's your style of leadership for sure. And again, we love that about you. And so, yeah, I think you hit it on the head. That's probably what I would say about you too.
Oh, thanks. Like here, Jasmine, like with you, yeah, 12 and 13-year-olds, and like, you know, and that like, it can be intimidating, and can be like, oh my God. And you think like 550 athletes, and 400 of them are the teenaged kids going to the games, and you get the full gamut of craziness and excitement and nerves and energy and homesickness and all of these, you know, these bundles of energy and experiences. But man, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So awesome. So awesome. Thanks, Lara. Yeah, I love working with elite athletes. They provide challenges in their own ways, and it's almost scary as a coach to walk into a group of short and awesomes and try and keep them engaged and loving what you're set out to do for the next hour with them. So I can appreciate that, Jasmine, for sure. Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for your responses. I got a couple more from the chat box here. And maybe this is a great one for everybody. So we'll just kind of roll through in order. And if you've got a response, then that's awesome. And if you'd like to just toss the ball, then we could toss the ball as well. One of the questions from the chat box is, what do you feel is the most rewarding aspect of your journey with sport and physical activity? And for some of you who are still competing, we can add a so far in there as well. So I saw you looking, Justina, because you know I'm going to roll through in order. So I'm going to hop over to you first if you're ready.
Yeah. So what's the most rewarding thing from my sport so far?
Yeah.
It's a cliche for a reason, but truly every opportunity I've had in life is because I said yes to joining wrestling. Like, I had no intentions to go to university, but I wanted to keep playing sports, so I wrestled. And I've coached the assistant coach, the Simon Fraser University Women's Wrestling team. But to be a better coach, I thought being a teacher would help as well. And I really enjoyed teaching. So a big motivation to get my teaching degree was a job outside of wrestling, but also it'll help me at something I'm already super passionate about. I'm a homebody, so leaving home to go compete around the world, things I never would have chosen to do on my own, just like make me come out of my shell. And wrestling's a super individual sport. The idea of doing things by myself is still daunting at times, but I've been able to do so much as an athlete, as a wrestler, so that helps me in a lot of other things. So just like the confidence and the experiences and everything literally came from a little 12-year-old seeing a wrestling room one time walking home from school. So yeah, just saying yes to that, so many doors open.
That's awesome. I love that. Don't tell my mom, this is top secret for the folks on this call, but I got my master's degree just so I could continue to coach softball. So I can totally appreciate how it just kind of leads you to the next thing and just taking advantage of those opportunities. So I love that. Top secret. Don't tell my mom. She's just happy with the master's degree. Awesome. So Jasmine, we'll throw it over to you for the same question.
I think almost like around the same thing, like what's rewarding to me also is seeing the difference that's made, seeing that impact. You know, I was working in Bella Bella for the last couple of years, and it was like little things, you know, like I'm going back to fundamentals with the kids and like they hate it, but it's like, this is what we do. This is what all the big athletes do, like having to have that conversation. But, you know, I had the same teachings as Peter too. You need the certain grades to play on this team. You need this to play on this team. There's no drugs, there's no alcohol. And then kids coming with me with their grades being like, look at what I did. Like so exciting. And it's like, they're coming to practice with their grade sheet all excited. And like, that's a huge impact. You know, when your graduation rate, the percentage like skyrockets, that's what you're aiming for. Like, that's what you really want. And so I think that's what's, you know, pushing me, and that's always empowered me too, like, is just coaching and the impact that you make.
Yeah, I love that. Just, yeah, the opportunities through basketball to teach them the skills or to have those standards on your team that they then transfer into real life. And sometimes it's the sneak approach. They don't even know it's coming. I do that with cardio in my practice, build it into the practice. They don't even know they're running around, but I love that. And yeah, those rewarding experiences where they become super pumped about their grades and they think it's about basketball, but really it's providing them other opportunities. So yeah, that's, you got it figured out, coach. I like that. Yetko, same question.
The most rewarding thing I think is being able to like make my family proud of like what I do and like still dancing till this day. Like I know that a lot of my family kind of stopped after a certain age, but I kept it going for like over like 20 years now. Oh my God. And I'm excited to be able to like pass down the teachings and like the culture down to like my kids or my grandkids and just kind of keep it going and like knowing that it's going to still be in my family and I could pass down like my outfits to like them or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's most rewarding.
Yeah, thanks, Yetko. I think so much of that was special for me about your story was the way that your whole family is involved in it and the teachings that you have of your culture is so powerful and so awesome that, yeah, you can pass down the regalia to your next generation and your family is super special. Lara.
Most rewarding, you know, I think it's the relationships and the connections, both the ones that I formed, you know, playing with some really, really great people. And then in my work world, helping facilitate those connections and relationships between, you know, youth and really great positive role models. Like I think the most rewarding thing has been just helping be a part of facilitating positive relationships and connections being built between young people and these really amazing positive role models. You know, they're seeing positive, healthy life choices being made, and I think it influences them. It influenced me. You know, I heard Charmaine. I was a young person hearing Charmaine Crook speak, and thinking, yeah, I could strive for excellence off the field too. Yeah, okay, what does that mean for me? You know, I think that's the most rewarding part for me.
Yeah, thanks, Lara. And some certainly underlying threads from all of you there as well as, you know, part of the reward for you is giving back and becoming a coach or sharing the knowledge or the teachings and building those relationships. So we're all on the same page. Believe it or not, we didn't have a call beforehand to discuss our responses, but we're all on the same page. So I love that. I love that so much. Thank you for that. I'm going to pop over to the questions again. Forgive me just 1 second. Okay, love this one, and then I'll hop over to the other two again. This will be kind of for everyone. I think it's a pretty standard question, but I love the responses. What is one piece of advice that you would give to young athletes? Or it says this one, I'm going to quote this one because I think it's awesome. What is one piece of advice for the res kids who at times feel they're not enough to continue on? So love the way that was worded, and I'm going to throw that out to the whole panel. And Justine, you have the amount of time it takes me to find my mouse again to throw it over to you.
Well, like I grew up in the city in Coquitlam, so I can't speak specifically on the direct question, but I do participate in a sport that is male dominated. So I get kind of like coming in and being the only girl in the room, but I belong there. And who I am is enough. And I shouldn't have to change just to be part of something where everyone's different than me. My strengths as a female athlete in a male dominant sport, they're going to shine through regardless of if I'm the only one there shining like that, you know? So just like be true to yourself, and you belong in these rooms and you belong in these spaces, and the right people will find you and they will help you succeed no matter where you go.
Awesome. That could be a poster. I love it. I call them hard stops, you know, those things that it's good to learn and grow, but there's things that you should be a hard stop on. I'm not going to change that because it's pretty awesome. So let's keep it. And you are enough. So that's awesome. Thank you. Jasmine, maybe we should rephrase. What would you put on a poster that would give this messaging? I like that. We can make some posters up. All right, Jasmine, your poster.
Yeah, so I've had, I was actually just reading that question in the chat. I've actually had the privilege of working in Bella Coola and playing little tournaments down there. And after living in Bella Bella and seeing the isolation firsthand, it's about school. If it's, you know, and it's so hard because, you know, so many people see it as a colonialized system, and it's very hard because of our intergenerational trauma. But for athletes to move on, to continue, it's always going to come down to school. And that's the hardest part to teach, because it's not what you want to hear when you come in the court. It's not what you want to hear when you're huddled up. It's like, but I feel like as the res kid in me, you know, it's like there's a certain level you can get by. Oh, I'll just go play in the All Native. I'll just go play in the Junior All Native, which are amazing tournaments also. But to excel to a higher level, it's always going to come down to academics, and it's a hard message to push.
I'll help you reinforce it for sure. It's so true. Like education opens the door for a lot of opportunities, and we see it a lot with kids that, you know, want to get recruited. They want to go to school and they think they just have to be better at their sport or their craft to do that. But, you know, you hit the nail on the head, Jasmine, when you said the education is so important. You know, college coaches are looking for, if you're looking to get recruited and you're on this call, pay attention to your academics, because, you know, coaches are looking for kids that can get it done in the classroom as well as the field of play. And, you know, sport has an opportunity to open up a lot of doors. And so too does education. And even if you're just doing the education to do the sport, I listen, I get that as well, but you got to get it done in the classroom also. So thank you for that, Jasmine. Appreciate that. Yetko.
My piece of advice is, like, I grew up on the res, so I know, like, probably how it can feel being a young kid and, like, seeing all the dancers, like, my age being so, like, competitive already, like, in powwows and stuff, and me thinking that I wasn't enough at times at powwows, thinking I wasn't, like, that good or all that. But I think we're all, like, really strong and resilient, so we've all been through so much, and we are all enough. And especially for power dancing, everybody is welcome to dance. And yeah, I think that's it.
That's awesome. Reinforcing the messaging again, consistent messaging across the board. Love that. You are enough. You are enough. You are great and amazing just how you are, and love that everybody's welcome to dance. And I've had folks try and convince me that I can dance, Yetko, and I've yet to believe them that I can dance. But I love that your sport is, or your activity is your culture is open to that, and let's try it. So great message. Love that. Lara.
Well, yeah, such great advice being shared. You know, when you asked this, I thought of Kyle Warrell. So he's He's an Arctic Winter Games athlete, the Native Olympics athlete and coach who our organization has engaged with recently and met, learning more about traditional Inuit games, Arctic winter sports, Dene games. And he was helping us understand kind of a northern philosophy towards competition, that when competing, it's really more about your biggest competitor is really yourself. And while you of course you cheer on your opponents and you want everybody to do their best, but really your biggest competition is yourself. And I think any kid who's maybe feeling like they're not enough, that's often because they're comparing themselves to other people. And I think if you focus on your strengths and where you're at, and recognize that maybe your biggest competition is yourself, and then start trying to beat your own personal best. If it's how many free throws you make, from the free throw line, or whatever you're working on, like focus on yourself and recognize that, the biggest competition is yourself, and to never give up. And, that there's always goals that you can strive towards, and you just got to set the right ones, and work with role models or leaders or your coach to shape those. So I think that might be my advice, is just remember that the biggest competition you have is yourself, and that you are enough.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I totally agree. Like we'll probably run into a lot of challenges when we start comparing ourselves to others, or the way that others are doing it. And we're all different. We're all enough in our own way, and amazing in our own way. And yeah, we are our own biggest competitors, that's for sure. And we are our own biggest hype squads. We are our own biggest nemesis sometimes. And so just a good reminder there that, look inward and pull out the strengths, as well as how easy it is sometimes for us to pull out those weaknesses. And so good messaging. Great job, team. Great job, team. I can't believe time has gone so fast. We still have so many more questions to get to. I'm going to ask maybe one more, and then we'll open up for some final comments, because this has gone really, really fast. But let's see. How do you all prepare yourselves for moments before a big game or dance, or what goes through your mind? And so maybe I will ask this of Justina and Yetko, because they're still competing. We'll start with you guys, and then we'll go to Jasmine and Lara. So Justina, you're up.
I'm ready. So yeah, wrestling, some of our smaller tournaments, you just get to walk out really quick. But on our big ones, you have like 4 mats spread across the whole gym, like a soccer field length, and you have to walk out. Usually your name gets called and you have to walk across all these. Something like World Championship stuff. You're seeing the best wrestlers in the world that you've grown up watching, and you have to walk by them, and you have to be focused on your own thing. And my best friend pointed out that usually as I walk to the mat, I'm just rubbing my belly. Like my hands are going up and down, and it's like this not think about it calming thing. And I catch myself doing it and I laugh every time. I'll just giggle as I'm about to go wrestle and like scrap with these amazing athletes. And then you walk out, you tighten your hair, flick your singlet straps and wipe your feet really quick. And then you shake their hands, and then everything stops. You don't hear anything, you don't see anything, the whistle blows, and you're just like in that zone. And if you're not in that zone, freak out a little bit and get into it as quick as you can. But I love that moment when it just kind of flips and you're like, you're there. Nothing else. You're just there. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like a pre-pitch ritual in softball. You kind of do the whole thing. You do it every time, and it's just your
every time. Exactly.
Yeah, consistency there. Love it. I love it that you have it built in, something that makes you laugh as well. That's awesome. So if we see you wrestling and you got a smile on your face, we'll know that you're in the zone and ready to go. That's awesome. So Yetko, same question to you. Just a reminder, how do you prepare yourself for moments before a big game or dance, and what goes through your mind?
I'm usually dancing pretty late at night at pow-wows, and probably around like 1 or 2 a.m. depending on the size of the pow-wow. So I'm usually bundled up in a blanket, and trying to warm up, but usually like right before contests they have like these called intertribals, which dancers are allowed to like go out and then you can like warm up your legs, just dance to a few songs and like stretch them out. And I like to stretch out my legs because sometimes I do get cramps. And I like to think of like some of the footwork that I want to do like in my mind, and then kind of give myself a little pep talk. But I'm also like, I always get in the zone and I don't remember like what I'm doing. And I'll realize after that it's like the song's already over and I'm done and I'm finished. And then, but it's funny. I don't remember what I'm doing when I'm dancing though.
That's awesome. You don't remember the dance, but you remember everything that you did to get ready for the dance, because it's the same, again, consistent across the board. Love it. Love it. So we'll go to Jasmine next. Do you have anything that you think about, or how do you get ready for big games?
It's been a while, but largely I'm huge into music. Music's been the big thing, and I know a lot of coaches don't let headphones, but I was usually like an exception because I get really excited and I get really pumped up, so I have to listen to like calming music so that when I get out there I'm not like just a mess. So it's like usually before the warm-up it's like calming music in my headphones while everyone's, you know, getting hype and the music and there's loud and everyone's warming up and I'm just big smile on my face just listening to really calming music. And that's always been my big thing. I know with a team I recently coached, they prayed before, and I'd never been a part of that before like a team thing, and it was under the hoop and they all go in, pray, and then have a huge hype. And that was probably one of the most amazing experiences. As a coach, I was standing there and I was hyped. Like, I'm like, give me the ball, like I'll do it. But I thought that was really amazing.
That's awesome. Something that your team taught you. I love that. And fun fact, I had a walk-up song in college. I still listen to it on the way to the field when I'm coaching. Lara, you don't know this about me. I listen to it before a big meeting or a presentation. Like it's my walk-up song. It's my hype song. So I still listen. I still use music before anything big that I'm about to do in my life, just to get in the zone and get ready for that. So it's I appreciate the music for sure. So Lara, same question. And it could be from your playing days. It could be from how you just approach your work now as well.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, music's a big one too, for sure. It's finding that one that's really personal to you, that can motivate you for helping get in the zone. I think for me, for starting to prepare for that, is actually remembering those moments when I have been in the zone, and replaying those in preparation. So if it's like during warm up, you're about to, you know, that half hour, that hour before going into the big game, at that point, you're really not worrying about your mechanics anymore, some of the specific movements, or, you know, I'm going to make sure my arm does this, or, you know, at that point, you've learned it all. You've got to like move away from that kinesiology viewpoint, or like focusing on the movement, and shift it to your outcome, and then start visualizing all of those great moments you've maybe already had, or you're visualizing the great moments you're about to have. That's something that has worked for me, is really starting to visualize when I have been in the zone. It will help feed me getting back into it again. So then nothing feels better than when you're in the zone. You know, you feel everything is effortless and you're almost floating and you're pain-free, and it's just, yeah, it's an amazing feeling. So that's a goal, I think, for many athletes, is, you know, how do I get myself back there? How do I get in that state? And I find visualizing those times when you've been there in your greatest moments, the greatest movements, and just remembering how easy and effortless those seemed at the time, because you've mastered it. You've come to this point. You're now about to compete. Focus on the outcome rather than the movements. I'm gonna give my stepdad credit for that. He's a kinesiologist. He's always like, we have to remember, focus on the outcomes. Such good advice.
That's great. That's great advice. I had a coach one time said, visualization, it's free and you can take it anywhere, and it's such a game changer. So love that. I really love that. Okay, we're down to the wire. So just again, appreciating so much you letting me ask you some questions, and the questions in the chat that were amazing, and you sharing your stories. I just wanted, I know we're down to the last, you know, minute or two, but I wanted to just open up for some final comments if you had any for the folks that are watching. So I see how prepared you are, Justina, but I'm going to go backwards if that's okay. I'm going to start with Lara this time.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I think in closing words is, and I saw a comment in the chat about, what if, sport really kind of isn't your jam, right? And to that, I think I love the example of the long-term athlete development model. So, Canada has through Sport for Life, and all of the national sport organizations have adopted a long-term athlete development model. And it was the Indigenous communities years ago that gave feedback that not everybody maybe sees themselves as an athlete, and that shifted to changing it to the long-term participant development model. And it's really about just being active for life. And so if competitive sport isn't your thing, there's still ways to, whether that's entering a 5K or a 10K, or getting out on your bike and setting goals, doing the same kinds of things that a competitive athlete might do. Goal setting, even when you're a recreational participant, can be so rewarding. So that I think that would be my final message is, I know we're really been focused on, we're all, elite level or competitive participants here in this panel, and we know that not everybody sees himself as an athlete or interested in competition, but I think there are ways to participate in sport and physical activity, set goals, and find rewards that feel good. So thanks for having me today, and thanks to UBC Learning Circle, First Nations Health Authority, Jordy, for putting this together.
Awesome. Thanks, Lara. Great closing comments there. So we'll go to Yetko next.
I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me to share my story. And I guess if any of you are ever interested in learning anything or have any questions about powwows, or if you want to start dancing and you would like to know like any dressmakers I know or anything, just message me on Facebook or something. But yeah, I had fun. I enjoyed learning everybody's like story about. I never knew so much about wrestling or basketball, and everything was really interesting. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Yetko. Great offer. Look her up. Take her up on that offer. I know I might. I got questions. Thanks, Yetko. Jasmine.
I really like that question in the chat, how it was worded. I was pretty uncoordinated growing up too. Like my first basketball team, we lost every single game. Like my parents didn't even really like coming to watch because it was so painful. But, there's so many different sports and aspects. Like the most amazing sports I've ever been to was a cheerleading competition. That was the most feeling I ever got from a sports competition. Like it was insane. So I think like there's still so many benefits, and even just being a part of the team. I know in our teams we bring in, it's like the water boy or the water girl, but it's people that can come and do stats and be a part of it and still be on the team, or even like if they want to help design jerseys, help design stuff. There's so many ways to incorporate everyone into the sport, and it doesn't have to be the physicality of it. And like, I know bringing in some youth on teams to help me make a warm up or whatever, that's still a transition for them to be a part of something. Being a part of the team is a part of something. And I know that being left out piece can be really hard. So, in Bella Bell, we're finding other sports. Like I played ultimate frisbee for the first time, and hats off. Like that was not my jam. So it's just amazing. There's so many different sports, and I encourage anyone watching, especially in your youth and your community, to bring those in, bring people in that do all these different ones that we've never heard of, or disc golf we brought in and I'd never even seen it. There's just so many different things. It doesn't have to be these, for wrestling or basketball or anything that we do. There's so many other sports. And I think that's a huge message to bring to isolated communities also, because ISPARC has their own, I've applied for those equipment grants and stuff too. There's still options, and I think it's great. So yeah, Limlip for listening, and thanks for inviting me on the panel.
Awesome. Thanks, Jasmine. Yeah, love that. Participate and be involved in, and if it's not softball, if it's not basketball, if it's not dance or wrestling or ultimate, there's something that could fit you, and moving around and being a part of something bigger than what's right in front of you sometimes. So love that. Love the ISPARC plug. ISPARC.ca is our website. You can check us out there. So thank you for that, Jasmine, as well. All right, Justina, gave you some time this time.
Yes, thank you. I could think so much this time. as we were saying, like everyone just said about playing different sports, but even at like the highest level, there are skills that I've learned by participating in that like 1 year where I was like, I'm gonna be a track star, you know, learning how to the fundamentals of like running or volleyball, like learning how to jump and just so many things that at the time you're just doing it because your friends are doing it or it's fun. Like I've never joined a sport. I've never stuck to a sport except wrestling, but where it wasn't just fun from the beginning. So everything else I ever did, it just like truly brought me joy. But those skills helped me become like an elite athlete. And I think that's a really important part of amateur sport. This world is like, let's be the best at everything. But you don't know when you're just having fun how much those skills are actually going to help you be the best at something someday. And I think that's a really important thing to take away from participating in sports at any level. And then, yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on and hearing everyone's story and just being a part of this. It was really nice to have a space to talk about sports after like the past year of not really. So yeah, thank you for having me on today.
So good. Thanks so much. Yeah. All of you, just raise my hands to all of you for the amazing contributions that you had to your sports and your dedication and commitment to the work that you've done and what you've been a part of. And I know we're over time, and I apologize for that. If there was Academy music, they would be playing me off the stage right now, but so grateful for the space. Want to do a shout out for the upcoming webinars that are next June 17th. We've got Everyone is a Wellness Champion, Stories from the Reds. So if you haven't registered for that one, please look into that one. And then following that, A Bright Future for Indigenous Sport, Recognizing BC's Young Athletes. That's June 24th. So again, the information is there. I want to thank UBC Learning Circle. Apologize for running over, but thank you so much for your work in helping us make this happen, and FNHA and Jordy and ISPARC, and such a great morning, and just everybody that tuned in and watched, and the panelists. I wish you nothing but luck and good things in your futures. You're all amazing, strong Indigenous women. I'm so proud to be a part of this conversation with you. So thank you for that. Again, such an honor to be in here and share this space with you. So that's all from me. Hopefully I covered all of the shout out pieces. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, everyone.